Hello guys, welcome to another footistazone video. It's been a long time since I made one, maybe about a month since the last one. But I thought I'd better that SEGA have decided to end the operation for WCCF FOOTISTA. I was on my way home from work and I saw this on the train and I wasn't sure if it was a bad translation or not, but no, it is actually a fact that SEGA are pulling the plug and ending the operation for WCCF FOOTISTA. So on the website, it doesn't really have much information on the main page about it. This is my personal account, but along the top here, eventually you will see that it will say notice for end of operation. But I've already pulled that information up here. So as of April 2022, FOOTISTA will be discontinued and you will no longer be able to play it, and we'll probably see it removed from the arcades. Now they have given a reason as to why they want to, why they've chosen to terminate FOOTISTA, and they're saying, and the resulting changes in social situations, it has become difficult to continue updating so that everyone can fully enjoy it. This is bollocks. This is absolute bollocks. They're using the coronavirus infection to quiet this, but I don't genuinely think they are sorry for it. And then they just talk a little bit about how WCCF started in 2002, went through many different evolutions until we got to WCCF FOOTISTA, which started in March 14th 2019, which is right here. And they just go on to thank everybody. Again, it's really disappointing for me personally because I've just started a YouTube channel, but that's really irrelevant. I'm a little bit annoyed because the reason they're giving is a cover-up. I'm sure obviously COVID had some degree, but how is COVID stopping SEGA from updating the game? That doesn't really make any sense. COVID has stopped people playing the game to a degree, especially earlier in 2019, but updating the game, no, you're using that as an excuse because you try to milk the customer for as much money as you could from FOOTISTA, having these printed cards and the scouting gacha loot box mechanic you put in it. But people got wise to it and people stopped playing it. That's the reason why you're putting this in the bin, because it's too expensive for you to run and nobody's playing it. SEGA, basically, you got greedy, you got selfish, and you destroyed your own game. That's what happened. The coronavirus had nothing to do with this. So basically, this is just my opinion, but I've been very suspicious of this for a long time. SEGA changed it. So the way FOOTISTA works is that you have to scout for player cards. It's a loot box. It's gambling, basically. That's what it boils down to. Loot box is gambling. So you pay 100 yen to scout the card, but you weren't necessarily guaranteed to get the card you want. You weren't even guaranteed to get a remotely reasonably decent card that you could potentially use. And the price just went up and up and up, and SEGA just failed to update this game and support this game in any meaningful way. If we go back to how WCCF was originally, there was a fully fleshed manager sim built into that game where you would have meetings with your staff. They would ask you questions, you would have to answer the questions, train everybody, deal with injuries, obviously morale. Some people would want to play, some people wouldn't want to play. It was kind of like when you on FIFA, when you become the manager and you play for a season that way, but there wasn't any sort of transfers involved. The team that you selected with the cards was the team you were stuck with and you had to use that. But they leveled up and they evolved, and it was really good. It was really fun, and that was the reason why a lot of people kept going back to the old WCCF game. Now, roll on to FOOTISTA, you would think they would take that mechanic and make a large improvement on it, but in fact no, they removed it completely, and that was it. WCCF had many different game styles and game features that you could use and play, and they had leagues that you could go in where you played a whole league and then you would be promoted or relegated according to that. That was pretty much completely stripped out from FOOTISTA. Yeah, they had leagues to a degree, but there was only 4 teams in the league, and it didn't matter whether you won or lost. There was no promotion or relegation. There was no consequence, so that was just pointless. It was absolutely pointless. The only 2 features you really had were playing the cup competitions, which were offline, where you could the more games you won, you could unlock certain cards, but they weren't ever particularly interesting other than the very, very last one. Or you could play online. That was basically it. And just for an example, like when you had a penalty shootout, you've got the control pad, you've got the shoot button there, but you had no control over what direction your players took the penalty. You just sat back and watched. Like, how is that gameplay? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Surely, as a game, you should have involvement during the penalty shootout. But I'm going to be very, very honest with you. WCCF Footista was not a very, very good game. It was very, very boring. And that's why on my channel, I stopped making gameplay videos and just focused on talking about the cards, because the game was just so utterly boring. There wasn't anything interesting for me to talk about, and there was definitely not anything interesting for me to show. Now, Sega, that's a choice that Sega made by not supporting the game, by not adding any features, by not even trying to add new gameplay elements or features to bring people back. Made the game so boring that people just stopped playing it. The only reason people played Footista was because they wanted the cards, and I cannot deny the cards were phenomenal. I really, really like the quality of the cards, and they're just great to collect. But that alone is not enough to keep a game going. They made the choice to change from having pre-made cards and pre-packaged cards like the old WCCF ones to having a built-in printer in the machine, so it was on-demand printing, which had its own problems altogether. But to rack up the price that they did and put that onto the consumer just drove everybody away. They tried to copy what EA is doing with the packs and the Ultimate Team or whatever it is on the FIFA games, but they've failed miserably because it just did not translate over into this collectible card game. Their decision to really hammer home and introduce the J-Leagues in the capacity that they did and the J-League players, again, just drove people away. I can't remember how many times that I went into the game center to play Footista, and I'd spend 1,000 yen and I would leave with nothing other than a feeling of being ripped off, robbed, and disappointment, because I didn't get any of the players I wanted. Now I understand this is business, this is what they want to do, and you have to pump the money in to get the cards you want. But the teams that they had and the different types of players they could have chosen from the up and coming to the academy players, but they chose to put the J-League players in. Okay, it's a Japanese game, makes sense, appeal to the Japanese market. But even the majority of Japanese players did not want the J-League players in there. But it was cheap, and Sega just pushed that to rack the prices up to make the European clubs players more desirable. People put more money in, and it just drove everybody away. When what they really should have done is left the mechanic as it was before with the WCCF, where you were more likely to get a European player, but they should have improved the gameplay. Footista had so much potential to be one of the most, the best football games out there, football sims, football management sims out there, but they just ignored it. They focused on the greedy aspect of it by making these cards, prying on people's desire to collect cards, because at the moment with the pandemic, collectible cards have gone through the roof, but neglected what it actually is. It's an arcade game. The gameplay needs to be good, and they just ignored it. They didn't add any features for 3 years. Footista has remained the same, whereas WCCF went through so many different changes. Like I said, you had a very, very fully fleshed out management feature, which would have been absolutely amazing in Footista, but they just took it out and didn't even hint at putting anything back in there. They focused on loot box. That's basically what Footista is. Footista is a loot box. Now, I've avoided complaining about it in my other videos. I've hinted towards it, but I've never really outright bashed it, mainly because I wanted to make videos about it, and I can't admit I did kind of enjoy it a little bit, collecting the cards, but it just became too inaccessible to people. It became too expensive. I couldn't afford to play it anymore. I used to play Footista maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Now I play once maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, and even then sometimes I don't. I used to spend a lot of money on Footista, and now I don't. I don't play to scout the cards because you just don't get them. So what I do is I just buy them privately through resellers. That's the only way you're going to guarantee to get the card you want and keep some money in your pocket. Kind of negates the whole purpose of the game. So that's basically it. Sega's own greedy fault is the reason why this is going. They can pin it on coronavirus all they want, but they drove this game into the ground by failing to support it adequately. Football is the biggest industry in the world. It's international. It's the international language. It doesn't matter what language you speak. People have this share a love for football. It doesn't matter what your culture is. People share a love for football. This had so much potential, and Sega just completely ignored it, and they focused on the wrong area, which in turn drove people away from the game in droves. Whenever I go to play Footista now, I'm usually the only person there. It used to be loads of people. I used to go there and used to be 5 or 6 people waiting. That was in WCCF and the early days of Footista. But as time went on and people just realized that Sega weren't doing anything with this, they were just trying to rip as much money out of your pocket as they could by putting minimal effort into the game, exactly what EA is doing with FIFA. The difference is some people will keep playing FIFA because the game is decent, the gameplay is decent. Okay, they don't change much, but the game is pretty solid, I have to admit. Footista is not the same. You need to update it because it's a management game. You're not in control, you're watching. So you need to have more gameplay variants to keep people interested, and they completely failed and they completely screwed it up. If this game was in the hands of a different company who actually cared about it, they could unlock the potential very, very easily, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. I got a lot more I want to say about this, but I got to obviously stay within the time limits of this video. But basically, it's cancelled, and it's Sega's fault it's cancelled. It's not coronavirus, it's nothing else. It's their failure to support this game adequately, which has made the player base just abandon. That's the bottom line of it. And it's very, very disappointing. But I'm interested in what you guys think. I know a lot of you won't be able to play this and haven't played this. And a lot of people were planning to make trips to Japan after the pandemic. And one of the reasons why they wanted to come was to play Footista. And I made tutorial videos and how-to videos to help you guys come over and play it. They're basically all redundant now because you're not going to be able to. So it's a bit of a kick in the teeth to me and the content that I've been making to try and drive people into Footista who are interested. It's really, really disappointing that a lot of people are not going to be able to experience it. Yeah, okay, for the last 10 minutes, I've just been bashing the game, but for people who've never played it before, this is something that they want to do, and the opportunity is gone. And a lot of people who used to play it when WCCF was available in Europe, Italy, and the UK, and likewise, with the hopes that maybe Sega might reintroduce Footista overseas again. Well, they're not even using it in Japan now, so the chances of it ever appearing outside of Japan is less than 0 now. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Tell me what you think. I'll probably make another video once I've had time to think about it and put my thoughts more clearly, and we'll see. But yeah, let me know what you think. Write in the comments and let's talk about this, and I'll try and speak to you again if I can find the enthusiasm to do it in another video. But thanks a lot for your support, guys.